This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Monday, the first day of September in the year 2025. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here is what we're tracking tonight. Polls closed at exactly 6 p.m. across the country this evening, bringing the curtains down on the voting in this year's national elections. At some polling stations, persons were seen hurrying into the compound before close of polls. In many other areas across the country, there were reports of a lower than expected turnout in voters. While early in the morning there were long lines at many polling stations, by midday those lines were mostly gone, and there was a trickle of voters from time to time. There were more than 750,000 persons on the voters list. Throughout the day, there were reports of persons not realizing their traditional voting places had moved. Many of the political parties had established helplines to guide voters where they would need to go to cast their ballots. Candidates and many voters alike said in most instances the process was smooth, although there were early concerns about the voting compartments, and there was a report of at least 2 polling stations having a late opening. With the polls now closed and in many areas the votes counted, the statements of poll will be posted outside the polling stations, and the Elections Commission will also upload those statements of poll with the results on their website. There were reports coming in this evening out of Linden of a power outage taking place just after the close of polls, forcing poll workers to use their phone lights to guide their counting. The Elections Commission has said a declaration of the results should be expected on Thursday. More news coming up on the elections in just a moment.
Your own home is so much more than just 4 walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Quartz presents the Home Events 2025, happening now at Quartz stores nationwide. It's the perfect time to refresh your home. Come explore new arrivals, bestsellers, and deals you can't resist. Discover the widest range of stylish furniture, cutting-edge TVs, audio systems, and appliances that are smart and energy efficient, all backed by the Quartz low price guarantee. Our experts will help you choose what you need for your home. Shop with Quartz Ready Finance and get more. Don't miss the Quartz Home Event 2025. Quartz, bringing value home.
The One Guyana floating production, storage, and offloading vessel has achieved first oil, marking another historic moment for our nation. With the Yellowtail project now in operation, production will eventually increase by 250,000 barrels per day, taking Guyana's national output capacity to over 900,000 barrels daily, the highest per capita in the world. This milestone means much more opportunities for Guyanese, from jobs in transport, engineering, and construction to new contracts for local businesses.
Dreaming of studying in the United States? Education USA is here to help you find your perfect fit. With nearly 4,000 higher education institutions in the US, there is something for everyone. At Education USA, the goal is to provide you with accurate, unbiased, and comprehensive information about higher educational opportunities in the United States. Our Education USA advisor is ready to guide you towards your academic journey. Join the growing community of Guyanese students achieving their dreams with Education USA. We welcome students from all backgrounds and cultures. Start your journey today.
When polling stations opened at 6 o'clock this morning, APNU presidential candidate Aubrey Norton was first in line at his polling place at Plaisance on the east coast of Demerara. Mr. Norton was first to cast his ballot at his polling station, but he said he had to raise some concern about the incorrect positioning of the voting compartment in the station.
The law says that the scrutineers must see the body of the person voting, though they mustn't be able to see where they, except for one of the buildings, all the rest were wrong. So I had them change.
Political parties, including the APNU, have been concerned about reports of vote buying, which could be facilitated through the illegal photographing and publication of ballots. Already one case of a voter's ballot being circulated on social media has been detected. The Guyana Elections Commission today issued a fresh reminder to voters not to use their cell phones while casting their ballots. Aside from that issue, Mr. Norton said voting at the Plaisance Secondary School appeared normal with no major issues. He also used his time just after casting his vote to encourage others to vote.
In the first case, when you do not vote, you are going to allow people to make decisions for you without your input. And so the first thing I would say to young people is look at the manifestos, look at the policies, and then make a decision as to where to vote.
In Eccles, presidential candidate for the We Invest in Nationhood Party, Azruddin Mohammed, was up early at his polling station to cast his ballot. He said the process was a smooth one, although he had some concern about the time it took for the voting process to be completed at that particular voting station.
So we hope that it can be faster throughout the country, because we want everyone to ensure that they can cast their vote before 6 p.m.
How was the process this morning?
Very slow, because I just had about 5 persons in front of me and it took 30 minutes. So we are hoping that it can be faster.
Mr. Mohammed also noted the importance of voting as he encouraged others to ensure they cast their ballots. At the Demerara Lions Club in Providence, on the east bank of Demerara, Alliance for Change presidential candidate Nigel Hughes walked in at around 7 o'clock this morning, along with his wife, to cast his ballot. After voting, Mr. Hughes reflected on this year's election campaign and said it was a tough one.
Campaign was a rough one, but we went well. I think the AFC has done better than most people expected it to do.
The AFC leader and presidential candidate also raised concerns over possible meddling in the country's elections by neighboring Venezuela. His concerns were raised against the backdrop of the attacks against several election officials and police officers reportedly by Venezuelan gangs in the Cayenne River while they were transporting election material.
I think we need to be prepared for Venezuela to take several acts that are likely to destabilize. That's just one of them. I mean, we have to be wary about, attempted cyber interventions and other interventions, particularly on social media and otherwise. And I hope collectively as a country that we stand together to resist whatever efforts they take to disrupt this event.
Mr. Hughes also noted the importance of voting. Back in Eccles, presidential candidate for the Forward Guyana movement, Amanza Walton Desir, said the process to cast her ballot was without issue.
Very smooth, quite uneventful. A light flow of persons in this area, and so the polling staff seemed very competent and knew what they were about. I thought that they gave excellent guidance. One of the things that I liked is that they didn't assume that I had voted and knew how to vote. They went through it, they asked questions, and I think that was very important.
ALP presidential candidate Simona Brooms voted in Bartica, and she reported that the process went smoothly in that area. Just after 10 o'clock this morning, President Irfanali arrived at his voting station in Lenora along with his wife, First Lady Arya Ali, to vote. After casting his ballot, the president said he remains confident of being re-elected. He said the PPP ran a campaign that showcased its strengths.
We did everything to plan. A fantastic campaign we ran, very positive campaign, a campaign based on track record, a campaign based on trust, commitment, one that was based on unity and our country moving forward together. Now, as we said, The final part of this of this journey, the victory, is for all our supporters to come out and ensure that they cast their vote, and continue to encourage all of them to ensure that before the day is out, they come out in their numbers and cast their vote and seal this victory.
The president also said he believes he has the numbers on the side of victory.
Very much so, very much so. Very confident about the victory. You saw the campaign we ran, the numbers speak for themselves. But as I said, sealing the victory is important, and that requires all our supporters to come out and ensure that they seal the victory with their vote.
There were more than 750,000 persons listed to vote in today's elections. While the head of the observer mission of the Organization of American States, former Jamaican Prime Minister Bruce Golding, offered a glowing report of the electoral process in Guyana today. He said he was personally impressed with the level of professionalism exhibited by the election officials at the polling stations. Golding made a statement after his team visited more than 340 polling stations.
Our observations are that, by and large, things have been moving smoothly. All of the polling stations that we visited, with the exception of one, opened promptly on time, and that one had a difficulty because when they started out, they didn't have the screen for the polling compartment. But that was quickly corrected, and they got the polling station going. All of the required polling officials, the presiding officer, the assistant presiding officer, the poll clerks, the ballot clerks, all of them were in place. All the materials that were required, with the exception of the one I just mentioned, were in place.
He also said the OAS observer team was satisfied with the polling exercise, noting that the electoral process was unfolding in an orderly fashion.
I was particularly impressed. I myself visited 62 of those 342 polling stations since morning, and I was particularly impressed at how professional, how well trained the polling officials appeared to be. They knew what they were doing. They were not hesitant in applying the relevant rules and guidelines.
However, he expressed a bit of concern over the positioning of the voting compartments at some polling stations.
In some polling stations where we visited, the polling compartment, the screen, was fixed in such a way that it faced the wall, so that you couldn't see from outside how a voter voted. In some of the polling stations, we noticed that it was the opposite, where it was turned around. And when I inquired why that was so, I gather it was in relation to this effort to prevent voters from photographing their ballots. So it was put in such a way that the officials and the party agents would be able to see whether anybody was, fiddling with a smartphone.
Noting that the presiding officers were not to be blamed, Golding said there appeared to be a lack of clarity with regards to the instructions for the positioning of the voting compartments. Additionally, he said while there were lines at some polling stations, persons waited patiently for their chance to cast their ballot. He said he expects that the process of tabulating the votes and declaring the results of the elections would attract the same level of discipline, orderliness, and professionalism. Mr. Golding, who also led the OAS election observer team back in 2020, said voting was similar to that of 2020, explaining that the problems arose not during the voting process, but during the process of tabulating the votes for District 4.
I don't anticipate a recurrence of that problem. There have been some amendments to the regulations regarding the tabulation process, and I expect that the tabulation will proceed smoothly.
He said he looks forward to the declaration of the results and hopes that it will be a true and free expression of the will of the people. The Carter Center and the European Union Election Observer Missions are among international observers closely monitoring Guyana's general and regional elections. At the opening of poll this morning, international observers could be seen observing the process. At the F.E. Pollard Primary School in the country's capital, the leader of the Carter Center's International Election Observer Mission, Jason Carter, told reporters that the Carter Center has approximately 40 observers all across the country.
This morning we sent observers into the polling stations in every single region. And this evening we'll have people in every single tabulation center for the next couple days. And so we feel excellent about our team.
The Carter Center will make its preliminary findings known by the 3rd of September. Mr. Carter said while observers are fanned out across the country, the mission would not weigh in on the election until after the process has come to an end.
We're not going to draw any conclusions, of course, until after the day is over and then after the tabulation process is complete. No, one of the things that's very important for all of us is that we want to make sure we are drawing conclusions based on evidence and not based on rumors.
The Carter Center's mission is coordinating with all the international observers on the ground to consolidate their efforts. Ahead of today's election, it engaged 6 political parties contesting the elections and other stakeholders critical to the process. The Carter Center, which has been observing elections in Guyana since 1992, has had a core team of electoral experts in the country since late June. At the St. Gabriel's Primary School, members of the EU Election Observer Mission were seen observing the voting process. The EU EOM Chief Observer Robert Bedron said the EU is fielding its largest election observer mission to Guyana, and the observers, a total of 50, were closely monitoring the elections at the polling stations.
We are gathering information and, as you know, observing the elections. And with this, we are present from the very early morning during these elections, witnessing not only the opening of the stations across the regions, but also we will be present during whole process until this process ends.
He said the mission has set up a statistical hub in the city to receive information from across the 10 regions and have that information analyzed.
While collecting this information, we are transmitting our findings to our statistical hub, a special hub which we established here in Georgetown, where we gather all the information. You can imagine with 50 observers who are very active observing these elections in many parts of Guyana, we collect a lot of information. And this information is collected within our statistical hub here in Georgetown. This will give us a very clear picture from the voting process from all the regions of the country.
Mr. Bedron also noted that the elections mission will not weigh in on the election until after the 3rd of September, when it will issue a preliminary report. Bedron said the EU EOM is in Guyana to observe the elections and will provide impartial factual reports, which will be to the value of the country. The chief observer also stressed that the European Union Election Observer Mission will not interfere in the electoral process, as it has vowed to uphold international standards and obligations.
Your own home is so much more than just 4 walls, floors, and ceilings. It's a lifetime of great memories and stories. Come talk to us and start your journey home today.
Republic Bank, we're the one for you.
Washi. Hi people. Washing made so easy since I found Washi. Washing me use wash me clothes and I can say Washi soap powder wash clothes so nice. Washi soap powder leave your clothes color bright. Washi soap powder leave me clothes smelling nice, of course. So give thanks to Washi soap powder for doing my laundry right. Keep my clothes color bright. Have my clothes smelling nice for sure. I could not ask for more. Comes in lemon and original. It is a washing machine in a pack. Wash your soap powder, wash clothes so nice. Wash your soap powder, leave your clothes color bright. Wash your soap powder, have my clothes smelling nice, of course.
Distributors located in the Stabrook Market.
It all starts with one. Maybe it's one look, you know the one, or one touch, even one word. It can start with one step, or one promise, one thrill, one first time, one deep breath, one leap of faith, one day to remember, or one night to forget. One moment, so many stories that make up one crazy, average, everyday, fabulous life. We get one life, just one. Make your move. It all starts with one.
General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party, Vice President Jagdeo, today said many of the issues that were raised at some polling stations across the country were normal on election day and should not be the cause for any concern or alarm. Speaking to reporters after casting his ballot at Sparendam this afternoon, Mr. Jagdeo said his party agents have reported several glitches to him, but he does not see them to be major.
There are several reports that are not unusual on polling day, and I do not want to elevate them to intractable problems. The other political parties and their leaders are magnifying minor issues, and so far all of those matters have been addressed promptly by GCOM whenever they come up or they're identified.
He said he has received complaints about issues of the stamps not working and the slow pace of voting at some polling stations. Those issues, he said, were addressed. For its part, though, the opposition raised several concerns, including incorrect positioning of voting booths. Generally, Mr. Jagdeo said he believes there has been vast improvements in the system when compared to the last elections.
We have less room now for capricious action on the part of any actor, whether they're party agents or staff of GCOM. And we suffered a lot in 2020 because instructions were changed several times in the course of the day and during the evening and during the recount by the Chief Elections Officer, the Deputy Chief Elections Officer, and Mr. Mingo, which led to a lot of confusion on election day.
The Vice President said he has been assessing the trends of the elections, and from the feedback he has been receiving so far from the party's agents, he remains confident that his party will come out victorious at the end of the elections. Now let's tell you that as persons turned out to vote across the country today, concern was raised at several polling stations about inaccessibility for disabled persons. In some instances, family members were forced to lift persons into the polling stations. At the Church of the Transfiguration polling place here in Georgetown, wheelchair-bound Holly Ann Bristol, who is also a candidate of the Forward Guyana movement, complained about her polling station being on the upper flat of the building and no arrangements being in place to assist her.
At present, GCOM has no contingency plans for wheelchair users or persons with disabilities who are unable to access the stairs to vote. So far, I've been offered the opportunity to vote via being lifted up the stairs to vote. But no other alternative has been offered as yet from GCOM.
The presidential candidate for the Forward Guyana movement, Amanzo Walton Desir, criticized the lack of accommodation for differently abled voters.
I think it's obvious here that what GCOM needs to have in place is some kind of arrangement where if they know that the polling places are not wheelchair accessible, that they have an arrangement in place to accommodate persons who are wheelchair users.
At the F.E. Pollard polling station, wheelchair users face difficulties entering polling stations without ramps, relying on relatives or volunteers to carry them into the buildings. Additionally, at the North Georgetown station, an autistic voter who appeared unsure of the process did not receive assistance from polling staff. Instead, his mother had to intervene, prompting complaints from observers who felt election officials were unprepared to support voters with developmental or mental disabilities.
They need to pay attention to these nuances that disenfranchises the vulnerables. Okay? I do not know if it is intentional or if it is a lack of training.
Not all reports were negative, as in some areas polling clerks were praised for being attentive. The father of a young disabled woman expressed his happiness and satisfaction that his daughter was able to vote without any hiccups, and commended the speed and efficiency of the process at the Plaisance Secondary School. Concern was not limited to persons with disabilities. Elderly voters also face challenges today, with reports of long wait times proving difficult for some of them. At one polling station, an elderly man collapsed while waiting in line. The incident drew attention to the need for greater accommodation for senior citizens on Elections Day. President Irfan Ali today expressed worry over gunfire attacks along the Cayuni River at the border between Guyana and Venezuela, reportedly by Venezuelan operatives. On Sunday, security forces and GCOM officials came under fire from the Venezuelan side of the border while escorting election material to remote communities. Speaking to the media this morning, the president said the issue is deeply worrying.
It is concerning. We have had the fire from the Venezuelan side a number of times in the last couple of months. So of course it's concerning. The security forces are on full alert. They have the strength and they're ready. They have the equipment, and we have to understand the threat of Venezuela. We have been speaking about this throughout the campaign, that Venezuela is a threat, and we have to look at every single connection to that threat, and the security forces are on top of it.
In a statement released by the Guyana Police Force following the incident last evening, it was noted that security forces immediately returned fire and successfully maneuvered the escort team out of danger. Meanwhile, the president has assured that the Guyana Defense Force is well equipped and ready to deal with any challenge at the country's bordering locations.
The Guyana Defense Force has beefed up its not only troop, but they are in a better position. We have invested a lot, as you know, in the military. So I'm confident with what they have on our borders and the systems they have in place.
President Ali also committed to supporting any action aimed at denting the drug trafficking and organized crime trade in the region, an exercise currently being undertaken by the United States.
Live the island dream. It's your chance to be one of over 100 winners in the Island Dream promotion. Win your share of more than $1 million in cash and prizes, plus 2 all-inclusive weekend staycations for 2. And that's not all. Score coolers packed with Buster, Turbo, Altitude and Viva. Just buy any can or bottle of Turbo, Buster, Altitude or Viva. Find the code starting with BB. Then visit at Buster Guyana or Turbo_Caribbean on IG or Facebook for details. The Island Dream, get money. Live the island dream.
Guyana's economy is rapidly transforming, and we're all part of it. Guyana is at the forefront of this development by providing reliable and efficient energy and supporting community development from the very core. 100% of Guyana's profit goes back to building schools, roads, and other important infrastructure that connects our cities and towns, providing fuel to domestic, marine, industrial and aerial transportation. Guyana has now repositioned itself as a market leader in the petroleum industry, building a better future for all of us.
Across the region tonight, the Jamaica Gleaner reports that last week Jamaica recorded 23 murders, representing a spike when compared to recent weeks of single-digit homicides. The 23 murders that were recorded over the period August 23 to 30 bring Jamaica back to the 2024 average weekly murder count. The figure is contained in the police force's latest serious crime statistics. It shows that Jamaica's murder toll as of the 30th of August is 459, and that represents a 42% decline year on year. A week prior, 14 murders were recorded between the 16th and 22nd of August. And the week before that, August 9th to the 16th, Jamaica recorded 7 murders. The spike in murders last week was seemingly impacted by 11 homicides over 2 days, between Tuesday and Thursday morning. The St. Andrews South Police Division leads all 19 divisions with 55 homicides, followed by St. James and St. Anne with 41 murders each, and St. Catherine South with 40. Trinidad and Tobago and Grenada have renewed efforts to strengthen cooperation in the energy sector, with the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamala Persad-Bessesser, and Grenadian Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell meeting on Friday to formally restart the process. The meeting took place at a diplomatic center. In a release, the Office of the Prime Minister in Trinidad said both governments acknowledge their shared interests in continuing collaboration in energy, recalling the 2012 Framework Agreement on Energy Sector Cooperation, which remains in effect through automatic renewal. Under the agreement, Trinidad and Tobago will name its representatives to the steering committee within 3 weeks to resume discussions. As part of the renewed engagement, the Ministry of Energy and Energy Industries of Trinidad and Tobago will sign a data use agreement with Grenada this week, and that will provide Grenada access to seismic and well data from Trinidad's north coast, supporting its ongoing regional technical study. Trinidad and Tobago will also supply technical experts to assist Grenada in developing a petroleum regulatory framework and review studies conducted by consultants. Speaking to reporters just after the meeting with Mitchell, Persad-Bessesser said energy cooperation remains central during the discussions. And asked about possible energy projects with Venezuela, she replied that for now, the focus is on Grenada. And finally tonight, international news. More than 800 persons were killed and nearly 3,000 injured after a 6.0 magnitude earthquake struck eastern Afghanistan just before midnight on Sunday, the UN Humanitarian Agency has said. The BBC reported today that most of the deaths occurred in the Kunar province, warning that the death toll could rise significantly as entire villages have been destroyed. The epicenter was in a remote mountainous area, making it difficult for rescue operations to be carried out. The disaster comes as Afghanistan reels from a severe drought, aid cuts, and what the World Food Programme described as an unprecedented hunger crisis. The earthquake hit at just around 11:47 last night, east of Jalalabad, the country's 5th largest city. The BBC says the worst damage was in Kunar, which is a rugged mountainous region with limited farmland. Roads in the area are often mud tracks winding around mountains, while homes are made of clay, stones, and mud. The region has also seen massive flooding and landslides in the past few days. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to have a safe and enjoyable night.